Well, I was a student in Paris when Carlos first came to the attention of the media, for a reason I'm not going to spoil for you, but maybe you've heard of it, part of this story. It's so, you know, it was how should I put it? No, it was extremely striking in the sense that he seemed to be part of a war that was hitting in the middle of Paris, basically in the area, in the Quartier Latin, which is the area of Paris where you have the universities, the schools, and so on and so forth. So the action, that brutal action of Carlos, happened in a very peaceful neighborhood. I mean, and at that time, of course, everybody was everyone in my generation was one form or another of leftist. But I was not exactly involved in active politics. I was very young, but of course the talk was all about armed struggle and how to get faster to the coming revolution. And all of a sudden you had something that came from another world where people actually fought with guns in their hands and killed each other, and it was extremely striking. So yes, I remember that moment. After that, I remember the myth of Carlos. I mean, like anyone who was in age of reading newspapers at that time. But obviously, what I was interested in when I was making this film was not to deal with the myth. It was to deal with the facts. And what of course was very interesting to me when I started working on the screenplay of this film was that the facts were actually accessible. I had no idea. It's only when I started just looking into the research that I realized ultimately how much was available. But it had become available through the years, and I don't think I could have made this movie if only 5 years ago, because there was still not enough hard fact of the story of Carlos available. Actually, the material, in terms of research that is in this film, some of it has never really been in any of the biographies of Carlos. It's stuff that has emerged recently. So to me, it was not so much about dealing with memories I had. It was more about just getting to the facts of what has been treated until now as myth.
And in terms of that, what I know that Carlos himself has spoken about the film, and do you feel like he's got an investment in keeping this myth alive, and that you're sort of...
Carlos has been in jail for the last 16 years in France, so he has nothing much to worry about but build his own myth. So he's he has certainly seen the film. He has not exactly commented it. I mean, he has done, at least not in France, he has given one interview to the German press, but he doesn't really say anything that's too relevant. It's kind of all over the place. I did not meet him for this film, also because, I didn't think it really made sense to discuss with him facts that are going to be on trial. I mean, some of Carlos's operation in France, including some of the oldest ones, will be coming on trial sometime next year. So obviously it's stuff that he can't touch. I mean, he can't really discuss that stuff. So we did get very little support from Carlos.
And then finally, I just want to ask about the casting itself. I mean, everyone will see that it's quite an amazing performance. And I'm wondering, and it's an actor that it's not particularly well known in this country, Edgar Ramirez. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what you were looking for when you first started thinking about casting the film.
Well, when I wrote this film, I thought it would never happen. It was too expensive, too complicated. I mean, when I had lots of fun writing it because I just did not censor myself. Usually, when you write a screenplay, you try to be rational about it. Here, in this case, I knew that there was no rational angle to it. That I had to deal with the fact that it was happening, in so many different countries, different languages, that it could involve, with this crazily international cast. So at some point I started, just worrying about it. I just wrote things as they came, and without worrying of what they cost. But I had in the back of my mind that no one will be crazy enough to finance this. I mean, but Canal Plus with French pay TV basically commissioned it. But I was absolutely convinced they would just be scared once I gave them the screenplay, and to me, one of the reasons why I took the project only half seriously initially is because I was convinced I would never find the right actor to be Carlos. Because to be Carlos, you have to be fluent in 3 different languages. You have to speak Spanish with an accent from Venezuela. You have to be. I needed someone in his early 30s because we had to deal with Carlos in his early 20s and up to his mid 40s. So we needed someone in the middle. You needed the physicality, and also you needed someone who had the talent, the charisma also, I suppose, to be at the center of a very long film. To me, it was a blank. I had just no idea who could be Carlos. And then I met Edgar, and all of a sudden, he was closer to Carlos than anything I could have dreamed of, and he was much better. I mean, he was an extremely smart man who knew about the politics of those times, who was familiar with both Europe and Latin America, who was familiar with, who knew about politics, and who obviously, I mean, to whom I had an immediate connection, which is of course something that meant a lot to me, because I knew that if I made this film, I would have to film that actor every single day in every single shot of the film. So it's I think it's meeting Edgar that to me made this film possible. It gave some reality to the film, because once I sensed that I had met Carlos, that I had met someone who could pull it off. I mean, who could be believable in the part and carry it for me in many ways. Then I thought that the rest would be technical problems, but that possibly this film had potential to happen.
And it did.
So yeah, it did. Or good, or worse.
I'm afraid that's about all the time we have. But
okay, so it was really a pleasure and an honor to introduce this film, and thank you all for being here.